The former president of Nigeria, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, was in Akure, the Ondo state capital, on Wednesday to consult with Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa in what's the latest of such high-level visitations ahead of Saturday's governorship election. Barring unforeseen circumstances, 18 political parties are expected to test their popularity among eligible voters in the state. Dr. Garuba Dauda, who is the director for the Center for Democracy and Development, West Africa, joins us now to discuss the impending governorship election in Ondo State and what the Independent National Electoral Commission and all other relevant stakeholders must do to ensure a hitch-free process. Welcome to the show, Dr. Garuba. Let's go straight into it, but I'd like to start with technology and the transparency of, elections. Given the importance of that in election processes today, how prepared do you believe INEC is to effectively use systems such as beavers and ensure their reliability on election day? And what mechanisms should INEC have in place to promptly address any technical failures to prevent them from disrupting the voting process?
Thank you for having me on this program. That first question seems to be a bit of, do I say off the target? Because I wish I'm in a position to discuss INEC. Only INEC will be able to tell us that. But again, as an organization, we are take very critical the issue of elections and how over time technology can help to transform that process. But the fact also remains that we are only able to discuss within the context of what is available in the laws and in the guidelines of INEC. We are told, given the kind of reforms that we've had over the years, that yes, technology has a great role to play in this process, starting from registration, that's pre-election, during and after elections. And that from the registration for elections of the eligible voters, then you have also processes that had to do with accreditation for elections, the voting itself, and also the declaration of result or posting of results to where they are required using the IRF. So these are some of the things. These are several areas where technology is currently functioning in the INEC election processes. So within the context of what is currently happening in the election processes in Nigeria, I think, as an organization, we are supportive of those things. And over and above all this is the fact that we want those declared processes, especially in the area of use of technology, to play a great role. Acting to precision and also ensuring that people will not have the cause to complain about what eventually will be turning out.
Well said, Dr. Dauda. Of course, we respect the fact that you can't really speak about INEC's, what we expect from INEC, because you're not representing them. But let's talk about security. I'm sure you'd might be a bit more comfortable with that. Now, the state has experienced political tensions following Governor Akeredolu's death. How might this affect election security and credibility, in your opinion?
Well, a few days ago, we put out what we called a position paper on these elections. And we also have been able to identify some of the issues around security, or if you like, you say electoral violence. But we're also quick to conclude in that paper that we've not seen much of the bigger issues in terms of, this is going to be like heavens will fall, given the way the campaigning and preparation for the exercise will look like. But in any case, we are also not completely oblivion of the fact that given experiences, even as far as even the Second Republic, we've had issues of violence in those areas. But I think at the moment, yes, there were issues about the late governor disagreements that had caused one or two frictions, and also very light issues around security and violence in this whole process, in the ongoing process. But I personally do not think, and also from the point of view of the position paper that we've just put out, that is going to be that a huge one, except it becomes sudden and unexpected.
All right, then. So let's speak on collaboration among stakeholders. How can all the stakeholders, I'm talking about, INEC, political parties, security agencies, like my colleague has mentioned, and the civil society, work together to ensure a smooth, credible, and peaceful elections? Now, I'm asking if there are any mechanisms for real-time communication and problem-solving on election day in terms of these partnerships, the role that civil society organizations like the Center for Democracy and Development play in monitoring the election and providing rapid, impartial feedback.
Yes, as an organization, we also have partners both locally and internationally that we do interact with based on the kind of work that we do. And for instance, Center for Democracy and Development is a member of the election situation room, and in those cross-fertilization, we have at the moment not currently identified any issues, and also in the course of preparing for this exercise, we've also had cause to join a meeting where even the electoral commissioner, the state electoral commissioner from Ondo State actually also came to Abuja to address the audience. We participated in that process, and the impression is that things are going well, and we are also very sure about the fact that if all the various constituencies or people with the mandate to man the various constituencies are up and doing and do what is expected of them, with particular respect to living up to the mandate they hold in this process or in this contest, things will go well for the country and also for the state.
All right, well said. Now, there are some concerns about the potential for internal party disputes affecting election conduct. How might these impact election day logistics and security arrangements? Do you think there's any cause for concern at all, or there's none?
Well, issues of internal party dispute often really come heavy before the elections, because my understanding of election processes in Nigeria is that, yes, one or two persons may have their reasons to differ in terms of what eventually becomes the general decision as to who represents the party in a contest. But the fact also remains that the bulk of the time is often spent by political parties to resolve issues internally, knowing the role they will play in the final outcome of those elections. Yes, people would have been aggrieved for one reason or the other. I know also in the calculation of, for instance, the APC, that's the All Progressive Party, there could have been the reason why those who may have assumed that they lost out based on the initial preparation they had made before the demise of the former governor, and who eventually emerged as the governor now and is also now incumbent and a candidate in the election, that there may be one or two things that may be untoward in terms of how the elections eventually is turning out. But the fact also remains that I'm quite sure that a lot of reconciliation efforts would have been sought, both in the area of the ruling party as well as the opposition party, to ensure that a common front is forged in the competition that is ahead. If there are still such disputes that are remaining, they will finally be resolved at the level of the ballot, the polling units. And that is that people will vote their different candidates that they prefer for the elections, and at the end, the results will have to finally be the decider in this contest.
All right, then. Let's talk about, these high-level visits and political influence. Chief Olusegun Obasanjo's visit to Ondo, of course, raised some interest leading up to the election. What does this suggest about, when we look at the political stakes and the intensity of this race? Are there any particular factors making this election particularly pivotal in your view? And I had asked earlier, and you kind of misunderstood me when I was talking about INEC's preparedness so far, if there are maybe specific areas where you believe that improvements from an observatory standpoint is still needed in the lead up to the elections.
Okay, probably I will need to address the last question before going to the first one. The fact as to how prepared is INEC and all this is that there are various channels through which INEC and even civil society interact on some of these things. At the last quarterly meeting of the with the INEC, and there's quite a lot of assurance as to the fact that INEC will do the needful in the organization of these elections. And until we see things going differently, we will not be able to tell if we cannot even dispute what INEC is telling us. But as people who are going to be monitoring the process independently, the end will actually be telling what exactly happened, whether INEC actually lived to their responsibility and mandate or even promise or not. But given the other question as to the visit by the former president, that's Olusegun Obasanjo, to Ondo, there is, for me, he is a father of the nation, and wherever he identifies things going wrong, it is his responsibility as a statesman to try to fix such things. I know quite a lot by virtue of the personalities that are involved in this talk and also in the visit. The tendency will be to always put in focus that bit of the interface with the governor. We are also not given details of what other conversation he has had with the opposition or those who are not also too known or put in the public glare. So for me, I personally do not see it as anything. I see it as a father of the nation trying to find peace that is expected of him. So in that context, I do not in any way want to interpret it in a negative way, or even I always want to see things in the positive side.
And that's good, knowing that you're an optimist to a large extent. But what lessons do you think that we can learn from recent off-cycle elections that took place in Bayelsa, Imo, and Kogi State that you think should worth applying to this coming election in Ondo State?
Yes, I quite appreciate that there have been different, what do I call it, different developments across the states you've mentioned, at least at the level in which the country is now. We now have about 8 off-cycle elections that often come, and Ondo is one of those 8. And I think what is very clear is the fact that unlike a general elections where the whole country is busy, we are increasingly finding some states now that are off the cycle, which then means that for all the complaints that we've often put on the table as to the minimum number of security operatives we use in our elections, including also the minimum number of ad hoc staff, the minimum number of INEC staff that we often use. We use off-cycle elections to address some of the challenges that we often see during general elections, which then means that you have so much number that are focused on a particular election at a particular time. But in terms of whether we are still living by the essence of the real, given the kind of turnout we've had in all these exercises, we are yet to get to that point where we can confidently say that comments are clear that everything is free, especially judging from the past lessons we've learned from Kogi, for instance, and the likes of those things. But I think on the large note, except what is individually or, what do I call it, deliberately put forward to stampede a process. We all have the opportunity to do things right if actually we want to do that.
All right, then we begin to, wrap up on this conversation. I want us to touch on long-term electoral reforms. Considering your experience at the Center for Democracy and Development West Africa, what long-term electoral reforms you would recommend to improve the election integrity and efficiency in Nigeria, especially at the state level, since that's our focus for this conversation today?
I think one key thing that has been put on the table, also since after the 2023 elections, technology has played a big role in this, but people are not seeing the finishing point in the use of that technology as good enough for the country. For instance, the issue about IREV, we have seen at the time we deployed it at the national level, it failed us in the 2023 elections. But it seems to be giving us some good records with respect to how it is applied at the subnational level, that's at the state level. But the fact also remains that we have a population that is huge, and whatever we are doing in the area of technology to refine it in a sense that would deliver what we need as a country, we need to be very fast about that. And it is in that context that I think that this will help. And more also is the issue of those who violate or who breach the laws with particular respect to how our elections are conducted. For a long time, people have asked that we should have a process of prosecuting those who have been informed in this in violation of electoral laws, and we think we need to do something just to serve as a deterrent to those who want to take this as a pastime. So in this context, yes, we'll need to continuously engage this process and ensure that where we want to get to as a country, we will be able to do that.
All right, and you've touched on this moments ago. But can you just expand on this point of how you might like to see INEC ensuring transparent collation, given previous allegations of result manipulation at the collation centers?
Yes, that's exactly what I meant when I referenced the issue of the reliance on technology. If we are able to do what we are expected to do at the polling unit, and immediately when results are, the election ends in each of the polling units, and do the counting and ensure that the figures that are arrived at are immediately imputed and uploaded. And we also guess that this also gets to the destination where they are expected at the right time, ensuring that the picture that is taken of the results, nothing interferes with them, and also there is no time lag between the time those forms are filled and also snapped and imputed on the IREV. Then we will not have the issues of contesting some of those elections. So for me, I think that is very essential, and that is also where both INEC, the civil society, and all those who are interested in the elections in Nigeria should give a serious focus on.
Thank you so much, Dr. Garuba Dauda, who is the Director for the Center for Democracy and Development West Africa. It's been a pleasure having you on Newsday.